Joining us now for some perspective on the case is media lawyer Paul Gilbert. What were his options?
Look, he was, the point about these diaries is that he was circulating these anyway. That's quite clearly come out. In these sorts of situations, you are far better off letting the story take its course. The diaries are published, and, you know, as they say, today's news is tomorrow's chip paper. Let it die that way. But what we have here is you and I discussing it on live television. We have newspapers publishing more extracts from the diary, and we will have the trial of the century. We've had Michael Jackson. Now we have Prince Charles.
We
Wonderful.
think, Paul, that he has been charged today with the murder of Carita Ridgway.
No, we think he's been
convicted
of the murder of Carita Ridgway.
Yes.
And that's obviously important.
So that's one murder.
It's one murder and eight rape convictions.
Rapes. But for Lucy, nothing.
No, and I think it's important to understand that he has been acquitted by the court. He's entitled to that verdict. So what we can't suggest is that he was involved in the tragic death of Lucy. But I think that I really feel for Jane, because it's hard enough losing a child. It's hard enough having to deal with a court process in this country. But when you're talking about a court that's taking place in a foreign land, in another language, with different cultural values, with this condolence money issue, it must be an absolute nightmare. On top of which, she's had to put up with this. Well, he was first charged in 2001. Here we are 6 years later, and there is no resolution. I mean, that is awful. That is awful.
What's really worrying that came out from the survey is that the number of convictions is so low. Still so low, it seems to be.
It's a very difficult area, and I sort of think it's very unfair. It can be unfair to just look at criminal cases and look at them as statistics. The reality is, it's quite interesting. I think it's about 6% of conviction rate against those reported.
Yes.
What's very interesting is that of those reported, only 14% are prosecuted. Now, that's a stunning statistic,
that is.
but I have to say that's in line with my experience, because the last two cases I've dealt with haven't been prosecuted. Clearly what the police have decided, that they've listened to the victim, and they've listened to what the accused has had to say, and have accepted the accused's account, or have felt, I should say, rather than accepted, have felt that they don't have enough, they don't have a reasonable prospect of a conviction.
Are they after a settlement, or is it just an apology they want, or do they want an end to these kinds of stories?
I suspect they probably want an apology. They certainly want an end to the stories. But of course, the problem that they've got now is that there's a very major question you have to ask yourself before you issue proceedings, particularly as a celebrity against a newspaper. It will be for the newspaper to prove that the stories are true. And they, of course, will begin now, as they probably already have, digging dirt all over the place. And certainly there's a very teasing quote from them along the lines of, well, it will be interesting to see David Beckham facing Rebecca Lewis across the courtroom. The News of the World love this. This is probably all their Christmases have come at once, because this will be, never mind Michael Jackson, this will be the celebrity trial of the decade. If they really think that they're going to get some out of this very quickly or avoid a trial, well, I think they've probably got another thing coming.
Paul, thank you so much for being with us. Let's talk a little bit about some of those tough legal questions that the British government is likely to face. What kind of questions are they?
Well, I think the important thing to understand is that what is happening now is that these men are coming into a country and coming into a legal regime that will protect their rights in a way that simply haven't been protected up to now. If they are arrested, and it looks very much as though, because that's what happened on the last occasion with the other Guantanamo detainees, that is what will happen here. They will be arrested, they will be taken to a high-security police station, and they will be interviewed. However, the reason for that arrest has to be a proper one. They have to have reasonable suspicion of a terrorism offence, and the question...
That is before they're questioned?
That is before they're questioned. There must be reasonable suspicion. This is where, in a way, the whole regime is totally different to what's been happening up to now.
So is the fact that they were held at Guantanamo Bay not reasonable suspicion enough?
Not at all, no. There must be proper evidence that they have been involved in acts of terrorism, not necessarily in this country, but proper evidence of involvement or suspicion of involvement in acts of terrorism in this country or abroad, and they will then be questioned about that. Now, the point is this: if they don't have evidence of it, and if they don't make some startling admission in interview, which seems unlikely, then the police will have to release these people.
On its own, you can't convict just from CCTV footage. Am I right in saying that?
No, that's right. You need to present it properly, but it needs to be put into context. And although Andrew's evidence would have been limited, and I think in a lot of ways this really proves how important CCTV evidence is, but with Andrew's evidence about where he was and what time he was there,
allied with the pictures, that's your case, and that is why, no doubt, these defendants decided to plead guilty.
And there are a great many people that say there's too much CCTV, it's Big Brother, we're being watched constantly every step of the way from our front door to our work and back home again. What do you say to that?
Well, I think if you look at what we've seen this morning, it really proves why CCTV, particularly in public places such as these cameras were, are so important. Without that CCTV evidence, the chances are these three men would have got away scot-free.